What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and are you ready to work with them lunar shenanigans? It's going to be an interesting kind of feel this week. We start off with just like the moon is completing a bunch of aspects like right off the bat, and then we kind of carry that through. The middle of the week has its high points there. We got some nice conversations between Jupiter and then the next day, or with Venus and Jupiter, however that works. Where the benefics are doing some nice things, and then it kind of tempers off there, kind of eases into the rest of the week, but we got the first quarter that's going to be happening. So we got a pretty active energy going on these next couple or this next week here. So we'll get into all of that here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. And one of the things I do on this channel is talk about the lunar shenanigans, and it goes over the lunar astrology, what sign it's in, what phase it's in, and how we feel through those energies. Because the moon is busy, and affects us all. So it's good to sync up with that good old moon. And I'm going to be covering the week of July 29th through August 4th. I know we're getting ready to move into August. But let's go ahead and get into this thing here. Because like I said, starting off on the bat on a Mars day, the 29th of July, we got the moon that's still chilling here in Libra. There's the moon. And we're in a waxing crescent phase. And so right off the bat, because when we ended off, the moon had just entered into Libra. And so now that we're getting into the next day, we start off with a bit of a hard aspect. The moon's going to be opposing Saturn retrograde. And when you have like the celestial bodies in an opposition, that's when the planets are are in opposite signs. You see Saturn here in Aries, Moon here in Libra, and so there may be there's this tension, this trying to reconcile two things between the moon, how we feel, the emotions, and between Saturn, the responsibility, the discipline, the challenges, things like that, the weight, the heaviness of Saturn. So there may be, and I could look at this as a couple of ways. One, this opposition could be where maybe you've been working a lot, been trying to push and push and push. That Saturn in Aries has just been trying to get a lot done, trying to force some things and not paying attention to how you're feeling, making sure to have literally with Libra that sense of balance, that work-life balance, where we're paying attention. If we're pushing it to the detriment of the body, ease up on that a little bit. But vice versa, this could be something where if you've been maybe kind of more involved in the feelings, especially now with Libra. Maybe there's been a lot of, the mental and the emotional are getting kind of mixed up there, and that's been leading to a neglect of responsibilities. This could be where it may be time to put a little extra initiative to kind of do the Saturn work. It's not always fun. It doesn't always feel great, but it feels better once you overcome whatever thing that maybe you've been putting off with Saturn. Because the thing is with Saturn, the more you put stuff off there, the worse it gets. So it's better to get ahead of Saturn stuff. And that's kind of why I started this day. Normally this would be kind of would put this as a red day, but we have in between here, right after the moon completes this aspect, then it's going to go off to have a sextile with the sun and with Mercury, which is also retrograde. Now, the sextiles are when the planets are, as you see here, they're 60 degrees apart. You got the Sun and Mercury, Leo. They're getting closer to that cazimi with that conjunction with the Sun and Mercury. But when you're thinking about the sextiles, this is one, it's an easy aspect, we like that, but it's one that requires initiative, one that's this could be one where if you're having Saturnian problems, looking for someone to maybe help you, for example, this could be a time where Mercury retrograde kind of okay, with that, let me backtrack a little bit. With that moon sextiling the sun, this could be where it's like, okay, we see the Saturn challenge. And now we're really kind of feeling and understanding with that moon sextiling the sun. We're maybe slowing down a little bit with that moon sextiling Mercury, really kind of processing it. What are my options here? Is there someone that I could talk with? Is there some sort of resource that I could utilize? Do I need to just work on something else and maybe kind of put this on just kind of let this take a seat for a minute? And then after going through that process, what I like is that the moon ends up completing its aspect with the square with Jupiter, and that's going to happen at 11 degrees, and that's the chart that I have up here. It's happening at 11 degrees and 19 minutes. And so with the moon squaring Jupiter, we love, even when it's a square, which is a bit of a tougher aspect, is when the planets are 90 degrees apart from one another. You got the moon here again in Libra, Jupiter in Cancer. But the lovely thing about this is that Jupiter is in the home of the moon, so that's great. So Jupiter is able to receive the moon, and Jupiter's overcoming the moon in this square. So a lot of that, if you take this initiative with those sextiles, push to that Saturn work, it can lead to the expansion. It can lead to the support, that maybe you're needing, the relief from this Saturnian influence. But it is one that I feel really is going to require some work. And then that pretty much kind of carries us into Mercury Day. This is one where, again, like, I got the mood here now, about 15 degrees of Libra, just put it at the halfway point. But now that the moon is done completing these aspects, that doesn't mean that they're not in play anymore. It just means that they're maybe not as potent, but this could be a time where, okay, you've taken that day on Mars Day to really kind of contemplate these things, and then Mercury Day could be where maybe you're putting more of that stuff into action, or seeing the action that maybe it could be vice versa. Maybe you're taking action which would be appropriate for a Mars day, taking the action on the Mars day, and then maybe doing some cleanup around on the Mercury day here, just seeing how things kind of played out there as you were working with this energies. Because that's it, because I work with whole sign, we're working with not just the degree based aspects, but the whole sign aspects. So these conversations are still kind of going into play there. And this kind of nice of Venus is getting ready to move out here soon. So we're going to be getting some interesting support here in a minute. Now, oh, actually, not even like literally a minute, because on Jupiter Day, the 31st of July, the first off, the moon is going to move from Scorpio, or excuse me, from Libra into Scorpio, and that's going to happen at about 10:26 a.m., and that's going to be Pacific time. We're still in that waxing crescent phase. And the moon right after, because you see here, Venus now, if you're watching this video, Venus has just freshly entered into Cancer now. So now Venus is under the auspices of the moon. And it's really nice because now Venus is overcoming the moon by a trine as well, while the moon's in Scorpio. Because normally this would be a trickier placement for the moon to be in, because the moon is Scorpio is where the moon finds its fall. And so it has where when a planet is exalted and raised up like it is in Taurus, the moon's qualities are really supported here. But when it's in its fall, it can feel depleted a little bit. It can be harder for the moon to express its feelings because it's used to moving through the emotions. But with Scorpio can tend maybe get caught up in emotions from time to time. But the nice thing about this moon, even though it's in its sign of its fall, it's in reception with its domicile lord of Mars. So it's got this sextile that's going on there. So that's at least kind of helpful. And then, like I said, it's being looked at by a trine, by whole sign, by both Venus and Jupiter. In the trine with Venus to the moon, and the trines, by the way, they're considered very beneficial aspects. They help to move things along. They help things. So let's say the stuff that you've been working with, maybe that started off on that Mars day, this could be where Venus can help you bring in the relationship. Someone really looks like, oh, hey, I want to help you with this, bring the support that you're needing, or help you to come up with just some creative ideas to move through whatever it is, whatever challenge, again, that you may be kind of going through there. And the nice kind of thing too is that this energy is really going to carry to Venus Day as well. And I love that we're talking about Jupiter and Venus, but it's like switching the days. Because on a Venus day, now we're into August, happy August. It's actually my stepdad's birthday, I'm gonna have to call him. And on August, we still got the moon chilling in Scorpio, but now we're getting ready to get to that first quarter phase. But before that happens, the moon forms a square with Mercury. So now when we're thinking about a skin, that square aspect is when there is a need for some challenge, where there's a challenge that's needed to be overcome, or maybe there's something that's gotten a little stagnant. So now we're wanting to move through these things. The moon could be like, okay, I got a feel for this thing. I'm starting to get an understanding of how to do this stuff. And then that leads us into the first quarter. And the first quarter is when the moon and the sun are squared one another. And that's happening at 9 degrees and 31 minutes. So if you have any planets or points around this, that'd be something to kind of pay attention to, that may be working with you more personally. Oh, and let me kind of backtrack a little bit. I got to get better about that. Oh, two things I gotta get better at. One, if you want to, I have timestamps for these videos, so if you want to just go to each day and check through the forecast like that, that's also down in the description box for you. But also too, if you happen when the moon's in Libra, this would be a time where if you have a lot of cardinal placements, the moon's going to be activating. It's maybe a more busier time for you. Whereas now, as the moon, when we're talking from August now, with the moon being in Scorpio, if you have a lot of fixed placements, that's going to be Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, or Taurus, this may be activating more, working with you more personally as well. Now, with the moon squaring the sun, one thing that I like about the first quarter is that, again, the moon reflects the sun's light. And so this is where we're getting those maybe kind of like ideas, intuitive downloads, things like that. And the moon is able to reflect that. It's able to catch the light of the sun and then put that into action to transmit that. So I find where the first quarter could be, if you've maybe been kind of dragging your feet on dealing with some things, whatever that thing may be, the first quarter is a great time for just like a, hey, let's like, the moon's getting full. We're halfway through the waxing phase. And listen, you can initiate things with whether the moon is waxing or waning, but it is more supportive when the moon is waxing versus when the moon is waning, when it would be more efficient to remove some things when things have reached a peak and kind of close out stuff. So this, again, if you have things that you're wanting to initiate during this time, this would be great, because then the moon ends up ends on the day for completing a trine with Jupiter. And that's, again, that's going to be expansion, that could be abundance, that could be the a breakthrough in whatever it is that you're maybe working through. So just something to think about with this energy. I think this could be a really kind of nice first quarter there that could lead with some work that can lead to some abundance, again, with that moon trining Jupiter. Now we move into Saturn day. And before, the moon's going to change signs a little bit later in the evening, but before that, the moon's going to complete a that sextile with Mars. Now, I put this one as a kind of a neutral day, where it is nice that the moon is having again, an easier aspect with Mars. Mars is still the malefic, though. So the thing could be where this could be a great time with that moon, again, having an opportunity, initiating from a place of, okay, let's get this thing done. When maybe I may not, maybe I've been feeling some type of, with the moon being in Scorpio, but now with Mars being in the mixer, this can add a little extra oomph, being able to face that challenge again head on. And even to be able to find some people who can, if not by yourself, to be able to find some people who can help you face these things. But I still, there's still something to consider, that if you don't take this initiative, it's just going to put things off, and it's just going to lead to where you're feeling frustrated. Things are going to start compounding, and then it just becomes, and then we get into a sort of a reactive energy. So that's just something that I would just kind of tune into as we're kind of getting to this. But then shortly thereafter, the moon, at about 11:01 p.m., the moon is going to move from Scorpio into Sagittarius. Now, so this is going to activate the mutable placement. So if you have anything in Sag, Pisces, Gemini, or Virgo, this lunation, these moon's going to be activating more of those points in your chart. So that's something to pay attention to. But the moon in Sag I like the moon in Sagittarius because the energy is moving. The energy is active, is wanting to grow. We're under the auspices of Jupiter now. Jupiter and the moon are are in each other's home. Granted, there's not an aspect between Cancer and Sagittarius, but there's still at least some support there, because they're in each other's homes there. So that at least kind of helps there. Now, as we get into Sunday, the 3rd of August, the moon's still hanging on Sagittarius. Now we're in the waxing gibbous phase. And we start off with the trine with Saturn, that's retrograde. And now this could be where we're taking the challenges of Saturn, and this could be where now, especially that the moon is overcoming Saturn, these challenges that Saturn may present could feel more surmountable. They can feel like we can approach these things a little bit easier, because this whole day, the moon is just doing nothing but trines. Moon trining Mercury, moon trining the sun. This is ultimately really nice, kind of fluid thing, getting an understanding with Mercury, really kind of hopefully feeling in alignment there with that moon trining the sun. But again, it's something I think, especially even going back to that moon sextiling Mars, it's something that we have to take the initiative in, and something that we have to, and again, whatever that may be looking like for you. So, but I kind of I like this day, and that's honestly what's going to carry us through, and as we get into Monday, on a moon day, the 4th of August, we just kind of end up with that, just kind of resting in that inner energy, and kind of letting that sort of sit there. So Let's switch back over here. So yeah, this overall this week, I think that this is one that this is a great time to get ahead of some things. Because when we get into the next week, I was doing just a little bit of this kind of looking ahead into that. And the next week we kind of start off with a bit of a Mars Day on the 5th is going to be a bit of a tougher one. Because keep in mind too, and actually let me switch back over real quick. I just wanted to point out that this is going to be the last time where Mars, really going to have that Mars in Virgo, because the next time Mars will be moving into Libra. And it's going to be a little bit of the cardinal signs and cardinal placements are going to be under a little bit of pressure here. Where we have that little positive pocket with Venus and Jupiter and Cancer, they're being squared on either side by Mars and Saturn. And so there's going to be a bit of tension here. Let me switch. Okay, go. No, get switch back over. But yeah, there may be a bit of tension in the beneficence here. So this could be a great time to set a buffer to kind of help you to weather some of the more tenser aspects that we may pull in through as we kind of get into next weekend, get into a new feel. Because it's interesting, every time the planet changes signs, things feel different, and then the moon's having where Moon was having, different conversations in the mutable signs. Now, when it's having the cardinal signs, it's going to be, yeah, maybe just a little bit more challenging, especially now when the moon gets at home. Like now it's got to be in the space, and Mars and Saturn are coming at it. So it'll be kind of a mixed bag there. But again, one that I think that we can get ourselves prepped for that. It's like you get an indicator that it's going to, maybe that there may be a storm, there's going to be power outages. So you got some extra water, some extra food, things like that, just to get yourself weathered for that. And again, apply this to your journey and where you're at, and the things that you may be dealing with during this time. And that would be a great way of working with this energies. But yeah, that's all I got for you then. Hopefully that was helpful for you. And if you want to see how these lunations or any of these aspects may be working with you more personally, down in the description box there's a link to book a consultation with me. And if you have any questions about the services that I offer, or anything like that, my email's down there as well. So definitely feel free to email me. And then if you want to check out, I have the links for the other playlists. So if you want to see, because I'll be talking about Venus moving into Cancer, I'm pretty sure Mars is moving into Libra this week. I gotta find my ephemeris. But if you want to see what's going on with the other celestial bodies, check out the Celestial News Weekly tab. That's going to be down there. Going to be down there for you as well. And if you want to look at any sort of previous lunations, reflect on maybe there was a sort of like little potent pocket and you wanted to get some more insights on that. There's a playlist for the Lunar Shenanigans as well. You can go back and just kind of see how things may have been manifesting for you. And again, get some insights. I find that hindsight can be a very powerful tool as you get ready to go forward into the journey there. But that's all I got for you. So until next time, stay mindful out there and keep eyes on that moon. And I will catch you on the next one, Moon Day.